Hello, I am live. Welcome to the Empowered Light Leader Show. I'm just going to my Facebook page to make the broadcast public because for some reason it always says that it's not public. Let's see. Edit privacy. We're going to make it public. There we go. Now anybody could watch. Okay, so today is a special show. Pardon me if I'm a little slow today. I have a really bad headache. It's very allergy season today by me. But we have a special guest today, my good friend Anna Miranda. She is an intuitive and a coach and an astrologer and a medium and so much more. She's going to be coming on in a minute. And, we were talking and we felt the need to talk about the subject that we're going to talk about today. And if you're popping on, you can say hi. I always love to hear from you guys. If you're excited for the weekends, if you have any questions about the new age and what is that all about, then this is going to be the show for you. So, I was talking to Anna and we both agreed that um, so many people talk about the new age, right? In the spiritual community, but maybe there's not, so much of an understanding of what is the new age. I'm actually going to put my banner across the screen so you can show. Hey, there's the topic. So she's going to be coming on in a minute or two. So the new age, the age of Aquarius, what is that? I think the term is used a lot, the new age, and she had done a um, a broadcast she put on YouTube, and I watched it, and she was talking about what the new age actually is, and what that means for us going forward, and what that means as far as spiritual teachers and what's changing. And what were we in? We were in the age of Pisces. What does that mean? And what are the changes that are coming ahead in the new age? And everything that she had said, I had felt intuitively because I've done channelings and I've talked about the new age, and it's all about oneness and unity. And anything that's not of the vibration of oneness and unity can no longer be held vibrationally. Hello. Hi. So, if you're excited about learning about actually astrologically what the new age is, and she's going to be on in a minute, and we're going to have a discussion about that. Um, the age of Pisces that we were in, she's going to talk about that as well. So a lot of people talk about the new age, and what she had told me was it's about 2,000 years. So actually, we are at the very beginning of that. And so, why is it that there's still, you know, things of separation happening on a lower vibration? Because we're just at the very beginning of it, right? We're just at the very beginning. And because we're at the very beginning, things are still shifting and changing. And a lot of old needs to break away in order for the new to emerge. And what does that look like going forward? Not only in the next 2,000 years, but in your lifetime, what does that look like? So she's going to be coming on in a minute, and we're going to talk about that further. But it's certainly an interesting topic because if you look at things from a bird's eye view, and you look at politically what's happening and environmentally what's happening and socially what's happening, you can see, right? There's a lot of division and separation, right? It's almost like extremely so. And everything seems to create more division and more separation. That is purposeful. That is because in order for there to be unity and oneness and connection, everything of the golden age, of the Aquarian age, right? We need to heal division. Like, look at, you know, I don't talk about politics per se, but look at politics. There she is. Yay. Hi, Anna. So here is Anna. I'm going to bring her on.
Hi.
There she is.
Yeah.
Hi.
I've
So,
never been on StreamYard, so this is fun.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, right? It has like a little banner on the bottom. We
Yeah, I've
have
seen
some people
it.
watching. So I was kind of just prepping everyone and telling them, like, a little bit about what you do and what we're going to be talking about today. But if you want, you can tell everyone kind of like what you do and who you are. And I guess, why you're excited to be here. And kind of, I was telling everyone the conversation that we had
Oh,
about, like what is the new age? And people kind of talk about it in this very fairy way, but actually what is it? And then I had seen you talk about it and I was like, wow, that's kind of in alignment with everything that I've already been intuitively kind of picking up on.
mhm.
And what does that mean for us actually? So if you want to kind of introduce yourself and then yeah.
Well, first of all, it's so exciting to be doing this with you, right? Because we met each other, I don't know how many years ago. It wasn't that long ago, right?
Maybe like no, 2 or 3. I
Two or
don't
three
know.
years ago, right? And
Yeah.
we met through
Michael's in.
Zen.
Yeah.
And I remember when I met you, the minute I saw you, this feeling came throughout my whole body. Do you remember I started crying? I was like, I don't know what you're doing to me, but you're healing me just by being.
Aw.
So it's just so nice for us to connect in this way and to talk it in this way. So I do a lot of different things. If I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself, I consider myself an intuitive specialist and master coach. So I do everything from all different forms of psychic intuition work, whether that is working with you on your past, present, future energies, working with you astrologically, which is my favorite thing, doing all different forms
Yeah.
of astrology. I have a hypnotherapy background. I'm an ordained interfaith minister, right? Reiki, IET, theta healing. I mean, I basically, I guess I'm a one-stop shop, but really the focus is on the soul contract energy. What is a soul contract, pre-birth planning, things like that. And that really brings us to the astrological aspects, which is what we got into in our conversation on the phone,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a new teacher for a new age because we are in the first pinnacle of the age of Aquarius, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and that's really so. Like Sarah was saying, when we had this conversation, we kind of felt like we were each other's breath of fresh air, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
we had similar views, and there's a lot of different
Yes.
viewpoints out there, and I'm not saying one's better than the other or one's wrong or one's,
Mhm.
but just kind of nice to give all different perspectives. So we have to remember too, Sarah, that an age, an astrological age is 2,600 years.
Right. I had said that when I first popped
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
It's interesting that everyone is so excited for this new age. I'm excited for it too. I know you are too. But we're taking
Okay. The baby
we're at the
stages.
baby stages. We're the baby steps. Maybe
Yeah.
if we not if we, probably when we reincarnate a couple of times, uh, we might come to that space in an incarnation where we're really experiencing the height.
And that's very interesting though, because now that I'm thinking about it, don't you think it's almost like we contracted to kind of be here at the beginning so we could really like anchor the energy, right?
That's exactly the next 50 years is the anchor of the energy. So
Hmm.
we are the trailblazers. We are the ones that are, creating that space for others to then enter. But we're doing it on a couple of different levels, right? We're doing it on an individual level, right? Which when we think about Aquarius is the great humanitarian. Aquarius is the energy that says what you do to yourself, you do to the whole. What you do to
Oh, wow. Yeah.
do to the whole. So there's this new platform of energy that is presenting itself to us that's basically saying it can't be all about you anymore.
Right.
Whatever you do, internally or externally, you have to be accountable. Aquarius will make
Accountability.
it, right,
Sure.
for
Yeah.
how that energy affects not only you and the people that are around you in your personal life, but also how
Right.
does affect the collective. That's the individual level. But if we just get a little bigger, right, we're talking about many things. We're talking about government. We're talking about
Mhm.
corporations. We're talking about the healthcare industry, right? What I do
Mhm.
to the whole. So
Mhm.
a lot of industries throughout this Aquarian age are going to start to be accountable for, like, if there's a company that is, using products that are harmful to the earth, that would be a really good example. Aquarius doesn't like that. Aquarius is going to probably in some part of the next 50 years make that company company, and this is just a hypothetical situation I'm talking about, but I'm sure we're going to see things like this.
Right, it's an example, right? Yeah.
You're going to have, companies like that being held accountable for what they're doing to the earth, for how their
Right.
products are affecting the whole.
Right. So there's no separation. There's no division. What I do to myself, I do to you because we are one. And then I remember on the phone, we even talked about how we feel that that will show up individually in our business and how we teach and how we attract clients and there's going to be kind of this shift, right? That's what we kind of talked about the different kind of teachers that are going to show up. That
Yeah,
yeah.
and again, so to me, you're one of those teachers. You are the new teacher for the new age. That
Yeah, you too.
you're a part of that platform. How I would bring more light to that is, when we do our work in service to humanity, right? Of course, there's always a piece of it that we're doing that's for us, because, we're doing this because it's our passion, because it's our calling. And, so it's not that you can't get any form of reciprocity. Of course you can. But it's really, understanding the root of what brings you, right, to the.
Yeah.
But Aquarius is, again, that great humanitarian energy. So I kind of want to say that the new teacher of the new age is a vulnerable teacher. So,
Yes.
right, if you think about it, we left the age of Pisces, and Pisces brought us many things, but one of the things that it brought us was religion. It brought us a lot of dogma, which is really beautiful in its own right. So again, we're not knocking any form of religious contact,
Right.
but it was really, religion works its way from the outside in. You've heard that before, right? And
Right.
spirituality
Yeah.
works its way from the inside out.
Mm.
And the new age teacher in the age of Aquarius is one that goes from the inside out. So, they're not going to be standing on the podium over their congregation anymore. They are the only way
They're
to
with the people.
right divinity.
Yeah.
You're accessing the divinity. You're actually just like a guide for people to access their own divinity
Yes. Yes.
by
Yes.
being human and showing your vulnerability.
I love that so much because that's everything I stand for. And I remember when we talked, I was like, that's me. I like when I speak, like I want to talk about myself. I don't want to say, hey, listen, I have it all figured out, because I don't, because what's the point? The point is that every time I experience something, my life experience is what allows me to help you. So what's the point of me separating myself? I think that people connect with me because I am vulnerable, right? That's the whole reason why, and so when you had said that, I remember being like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Yep.
And
I watch a lot of videos, and watching them, I was like, wow, she really is exemplifying that new teacher for that new age, which is that space where you're willing to go into a space with the people that you teach and say, I am like you. I'm not separate from you. I'm not
right,
higher than you. I'm on the journey with you. Now, I may have cultivated some form of knowledge and practice that I'm here today to share with you.
right.
But I'm on the journey with you.
Right, but that doesn't mean that I'm better or worse or right. And sort of, I feel like too, we were also discussing the kind of the shift in the type of teacher and the way that it's not entertainment or performance, right? It's more like you said, guiding people to get within themselves, not giving them the answers per se, right?
Yeah,
Not coming to me for answers, right?
that's a big thing I want to say with me. I don't know if there's a little feedback. You hear that feedback? Anybody
A
else hear
little,
it?
it's like a teeny. It's not too bad. It's
Okay,
just a
okay. I'm
little.
trying to like see what that is and try to back away. But I want to say that I think in my work, well, even in your work, because you do light language, right? So any form of intuitive or psychic, platform, there's the sensationalized aspect of it, right? Which
Yeah,
we could see as entertainment, which, and again, some of that is really fun. So we don't want to negate it. We're not judging it. All we're saying is that in the age of Aquarius, we are going to see a shift from the entertainment-based psychic energy or, spirituality to the more internal aspects. And I want to say raw spirituality.
yeah,
I'll give you an example. One thing I used to love about John Edwards when he used to do the galleries on television, he used to do the gallery readings, is that
yeah.
he didn't edit them. He didn't edit it. He just went in there like a real gallery is done. You just go in there and you're kind of all over the place and you're doing the best you can to discern the different spirits and energies that are coming through. And he did it live. Actually, I'm not sure if it was live, but I do know he didn't really edit it. And
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah.
I liked watching him because I was like, well, that's kind of really what it's like. Where in other shows, you know, it's being edited. They're
Oh, pretty. Yeah.
making it look pretty. They're taking out the parts where maybe the medium was not exactly on point.
Right.
So I think that that's an example of it. But I think another example is, again, Aquarius is going to demand that the psychic and spiritual communities, right, become responsible for any form of spiritual bypass, spiritual dissociation.
Can you explain spiritual bypass for people? Because I don't know if everyone's familiar with that.
Um, well, what is your take on it? Because I know I have actually, I'm really interested to hear your take on the bypass.
I mean, I remember when you were the first person that I heard you use that term because I never really knew what it was. To me, it's kind of like like a fake positivity. Like, it's not an authentic, right? Because true spirituality explores darkness, right?
Mm,
Explores because the darkness is the avenue in which you return to the light. So without the darkness, you're bypassing, right?
mm,
The light. So you need to explore darkness. You need to be okay with being uncomfortable. You need to be willing to actually be like, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not always happy. I'm not always
right.
right. So is that kind of and bypassing maybe is not looking at that or
I think definitely bypassing is when we are not willing to go into the shadow. We're not willing to go into the darkness because we kind of want to put a pretty little puffy band-aid on it.
right,
And spirituality can do that very easily. You know,
right,
we can put a little pretty bow on it and make it seem like something that maybe it's really not. Um,
right.
I think a deeper example would be when somebody goes into spirituality because they're in trauma, but never faces the trauma, doesn't do that, what we call root chakra beta work energy on that trauma. Instead, they keep going into transcendental experiences,
Okay.
take
Right,
away from it, or
right,
find a guru and they give their power over to the guru, right?
right,
Um,
right,
or, you know, they sometimes change, and this is where we get into disassociation. They'll change their whole personality. They'll change their name. And
yeah,
community. And again, I'm not saying that because there's a lot of really beautiful yoga communities where you do
yeah,
change your name. That's
right,
different.
right,
So I want to make that clear that I'm
right. You're
not
not judging, right,
judging or speaking of those, you know, every community, but there are things like this,
right.
you know, where they
Do
will.
you think it's almost like a spiritual addiction, kind of?
Yeah, that's a really great way to explain it. It's a
Yeah.
spiritual addiction, and it's also a rejection of self. It is actually
Mm,
really tricky, Sarah, because what happens is they think they're under the impression that they're finding self, but really
that's
they're rejecting their root, though. They're rejecting their root chakra. They're rejecting their earthbound self and only willing to embrace their spiritual self.
right. They're rejecting their humanity because it's too painful, because it's not fun and it's not exciting. And let's go, and that's interesting too, because, I'm a trans channel and I do all of that work. And I remember when we met, you had said to me that, you know, you're very grounded for a trans channel.
Well, yeah, one of the reasons why I really gravitate towards you, because and there are some really extraordinary trans channels. Um, Tony Stockwell to me is an
Oh, I've
incredible
heard of him. Yeah.
grounded and well-rounded trans channel. But yeah, like I don't see as many trans channelers that have that root grounding,
Mm,
because they're often traveling in the galactic, in the ethers. They're often in those spaces, and those spaces
right.
are awesome, and those spaces are valuable. So we're not discrediting the value of those spaces, but if there's no
Little
balance,
imbalanced, right. Right. And
yeah,
it's interesting too, because I feel like the more grounded I become, the more connected I am. Whereas in the beginning of my earlier development, I think I thought, no, I don't want to be grounded. I'm less connected when I'm grounded. But then you discover the more rooted you are, the more balanced you are, and the easier it is to connect. So I feel like it's confusing for people who are first starting out. They think to connect, right? It's we go up and out but no, we go in, right? So,
Well, yeah, if we just look at the right, if we just look at the chakra system, I'm trying because that's a reverb. I'm trying to speak where that doesn't happen.
that's annoying. I hate that.
Does it often happen on StreamYard or?
I've never had, you're my first guest, so I've never invited
Oh,
someone.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I feel even more. Awesome. If we just look at the chakras, right? Most people think that, like you said, in order to connect, they've got to open that third eye and open that crown. But the truth of it is, and you can talk to any true Kundalini yoga teacher or Hatha yoga teacher, and they will explain this, that, our chakra system is really our GPS. It's our energetic GPS system as we navigate here on the earth. And that root energy is the first phase. And if you don't get to the root, and then you get to the sacral, and then you get to the solar, you actually block the upper channels.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
You block it. So if you're only working in the upper chakras, you actually will not experience your full spiritual potential, because the streamline of energy will not be flowing enough for you to really open the upper chakra system the way that you want it to.
Right.
One chakra builds on the other. It's a bridge.
Yes.
Right? So we
Yeah.
can't skip steps on the bridge. If
Right.
we do, it doesn't mean we can't experience our spiritual, divinity, but it will be blocked and limited. And that's when we become susceptible to bypass and disassociation, when we're only working in the upper chakra hemispheres and not going down. And think about it, Sarah. The solar is all about free will. It's trust. It's our self-esteem. It's the big,
Your self-esteem.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sacral is all of your relationships, your
Emotions. Yeah.
emotions, your creativity,
Yeah.
right? Then your root is your security in this world,
Charity. Yeah.
your home life, how you grew up, how you were raised. So if we just look at it from a mental health standpoint and recognize how important everything we just said actually is to our spiritual growth.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't bypass that because it's your foundation.
Right.
And yeah, it's your foundation. And I also want to talk about too, we had talked about, this is the beginning, right, of the next 2000 years. So what would you say, I kind of, when I first popped on, I said, I think because it's the beginning, we're almost really seeing the separation very clearly now. Like it's being like highlighted like with a magnet, like a magnifying glass. Like it seems extreme now. So it's almost like, do you feel like things need to get worse before they get better? Or is it?
Yeah, I'm not going to reword it, because you're 100% correct, but let's reword it in a language that is more supportive, right?
Mhm.
So the earthbound is governed by laws. We know this, right? Even when it comes to physics, but also just spiritual laws. And one of those laws is the law of polarity. Most people know the law of attraction. Everybody wants to practice it. And it's a beautiful law, but there are 6 other laws
Right.
that need to be understood, because they all work together. One of them is the law of polarity. I cannot have up if I do not have down,
Yes.
right? I cannot have left if I do not have right.
Michelson says headphones will help the feedback. I don't know if you have headphones.
I actually don't. I don't.
That's all right. It's not.
Michael's in. We love you and we appreciate you so much.
He's making nice comments too. The world needs teachers of self-love. Yeah, so true.
I will have to buy myself some earplugs.
I posted his comment. But yeah, so the law of polarity,
Right.
which is very fascinating. Yeah.
It's really that yin yang balance. It's the balance of the yin and the whether you call it yang, yang, however you pronounce it, but that's what it is. So when you talk about that separation consciousness, think about Aquarius. Aquarius wants to alleviate separation and bring in integration. But in order to do that, right, Sarah, to your point, you made such a brilliant point. any form of separation consciousness within the individual, but also in the collective,
Mm-hmm.
is going to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very extreme for a while. If you really want my astrological opinion, especially if we just look at the state of America, because I do look at America's astrology every day. I go online, once a month with a friend of mine, and we take a look at it and we look at what's going on. It's going to get more and more and more extreme, but it's really leading us into integration eventually. But it's like you've got to see those polarities really
Yes,
clearly,
polarity.
right?
Yeah.
Before
Mm-hmm.
the unification comes forward. So like you were saying, we are the teachers, or we are the generation, the people who are here now, our generation, the generation, and behind us, okay? And maybe even the generation in front of us, because we're around the same age, Sarah, right? Um, we're the anchors to that. So we have to hold a space where people who are in separation consciousness can possibly step out of that through compassion, through love, through healing, through understanding, and through truth to get into the integration. But yeah, we're gonna be seeing a lot of it, and we're seeing it now all the time.
Yeah, and I think like even the extremities of it, right?
Mhm.
Like it seems like it's being pulled to the extreme, like the one polarity, like always swinging, right, until there's eventually balance. But yeah, I think that looking at things from astrology, I always really like because it seems almost like neutral. Like it's like it observes, it tells you what is without giving you an opinion. It kind of is just telling you what's, astrologically in the stars.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I love about astrology. I also love, the scientific world will never acknowledge astrology as an actual science. They used to 3,000 years ago. If you were an astronomer, you were also an astrologer. You were kind of mixed into one, and it's not like that anymore. But I do see astrology as a science, even though the scientific world would not credit that. Um,
yeah,
it's pure mathematics. We are working with our own solar system, the planets, the comets, and the stars. That are there, and the moon cycles, among other things that we do astrologically. But you're right. It's like, it doesn't have an opinion. It's,
right.
this is
It's
the
just
planet.
showing you what it is.
This is what
Yeah.
it is. This is the energy it brings forth.
Do you think my intuition this as the next couple hundred years, I don't know when, that there's going to be more and more integration of science and spirituality?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a couple things about the Aquarian age outside of separation consciousness and a new teacher for a new age that I think we're going to see. And again, this is based on what Aquarius represents. And one thing it represents is technology. So
Mm.
my astrology teacher always says in the age of Aquarius, we're going into the sci-fi. We're going to go into things we
Ooh.
have never seen before. We're going to go into incredible changes in health as well, like as the system has to change, who gets health care and who doesn't,
Oh, interesting.
and how much it is. That's the separation consciousness that's going to have to
Mm.
shift more to a
Right.
humanitarian energy. But the technology and what they're going to be able to do with people, the age of
That's
Aquarius,
exciting.
right, supporting that, all forms
Yeah.
of technology. Like, I mean, isn't it interesting that we're in the first pinnacle of the age of Aquarius? And I mean, unfortunately, it was due to COVID-19, but we're using, come on, we're using technology now even more than we did a year ago. I mean, a year ago we were already using it, but now it's just like become everything,
Yeah.
It's good and bad, and it's good and bad.
Michael Zen says, I believe human evolution is tied to AI. Well,
Yeah,
that's
stuff
interesting.
like that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Aquarius is bringing all of that. Now, we may not see it in our lifetime, the big stuff, but we're going to see really amazing things come out in all forms of technology, from just the computer that you use to how you travel to the type of phones that you use, to the type of cars that we drive, to the type of medicine that is going to be, available for us in this 2000 year.
And available to everyone versus wealthy. And what about the division of wealth? I'm assuming that
Mm-hmm. That's
that'll
a
shift.
big one for Aquarius.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really big deal for Aquarius.
Yeah.
It is going to. take a look at that. And it's going, again, what you do to yourself, you do to the whole. If you're taking too much of the pie, Aquarius wants, a lot of spirituality talks about Aquarius being unity consciousness. We have to think about what that really means.
Mm,
What
yeah.
it really
Yeah.
means.
What really is that? Yeah, and that's interesting you say that too, because every time I channel, they're always talking about unity and actually explaining oneness and what oneness really means and how oneness really shows up in your life, because it almost seems like it's this far off concept, right? But what does it actually mean in your, and a lot of times they talk about judgment and how that has to do with oneness too, the release of judgment, that there is no good or bad. There just there is. So, which is a very hard concept, I think, for a lot of people to really digest.
Yeah.
That in the higher realms of consciousness, there's no judgment, you know?
And I think a lot of work.
It is.
It
Yeah.
takes a lot of internal work to do something like that. It really does. It might take more than one lifetime for a person to continue to cultivate that. But again, Aquarius just basically will be saying when you come up to a space in your life where maybe you're not being conscious of your judgments, once you become conscious of them, now you have power to change, to work on that. Because we all have judgments. We all have observations. We all have judgments, and we're not going to get everything right. That's part of the human condition, but it's what we do when we make the mistakes, when we have a bad moment. What do we do with
how we show up?
how we
I
show
think
up?
that's one of my biggest struggles. I'm like 90% free of judgment, but it always pops up. Well, you are human.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
It's just our nature. It's interesting. It's funny because I always have this commercial that pops up on my news feed, and it's for some exercise app. And the girl who presents it, like, she has no smile on, and she advertises that she doesn't talk during her workouts. And the whole thing just looks like her, just like a strip tease. It doesn't even look like a workout, and it's always on my news feed. So I exercised my voice and was like, I don't like this at all. Like, I would never work out to this. And a couple of people were like, you're judging. And I was like, yes, I am judging. But it's like it's advertised to me to judge, right? As a consumer, I judge whether I want to purchase or not. So not all forms of judgment are necessarily bad, right?
Right.
We judge things all the time. We judge whether we want to do something or not, right?
That's all sacral chakra. Sacral chakra is when we discover what do I like and what don't I like. And I like to use the word observation rather than judgment. There's a very big difference between observing something and saying, I don't think that's for me.
That's not for me.
Right?
And that's okay. And that's okay. I think judgment, right? Would you say judgment is more like it has a different, like it has a more negative connotation, maybe, right?
Definitely. And I would also say that there's projection of your own shadow in judgment.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Others in that negative form, it's a projection of our own inner shadow.
I was judging myself. You say, yeah, you're right, right? Oftentimes the things we don't like to see in others is what we don't like to see in ourselves.
And then we can learn from that, though. We can see that. Then we have to go into that place within ourselves and say, okay, what part of me is reflected here? How do I feel about that part of me? And what can I do to change that part of me? I can give myself compassion. And by giving myself compassion, I learn to give the other person that I'm judging compassion to.
But that's also oneness. That all comes back to oneness. Like, can I accept things in others that I judge as bad? Can I still accept them? I might not have to have a relationship with them or converse with them, but can I accept them for who they are?
Yeah.
And release the judgment, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. Definitely not easy to do. And I think right now we're in a time where we're constantly, right, being pressed with that, because we're in a state of collective trauma on many levels. As a nation, we're in a state of collective trauma. So it's like,
yes,
it all the time, and the judgments are coming. They're there. I mean, I have them too, and I have to step back, whether it's friends, whether and have to really look at it and go, okay, what is that? You know, what is that observation? Is it a judgment or is it an observation? Because again, you can observe someone's behavior and say, I'm going to give them love and I'm going to give them compassion, but I'm
But
no
that doesn't,
going to interact with that energy.
right, that doesn't mean that I have to, just like I think also forgiveness can be misunderstood as well, because you can forgive someone, but it doesn't mean that you need to still promote what they do or agree with what they do, right? It's just letting go of the attachment of that hurt or the wound. But yeah, it's interesting to see what's gonna continue to come out over, the next couple of years as far as, well, everything really.
Yeah. There's another thing I want to kind of say about the age of Aquarius that I think is kind of interesting, and I think that you might find it really interesting, is also going into Aquarius is bringing us into what we call the galactic era.
Ooh,
Right?
yeah,
It's
I find that
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think there's going to be many different aspects to the galactic era. I'm going to keep it grounded though, because really, but just look at SpaceX right now, because as an astrologer, I do love astronomy. I'm not an astronomer. I don't do, I go to the planetarium and I study things there, but by no means, not even close to an astronomer. I just find it
Yeah.
interesting. But I do follow SpaceX, and if you look at what they're doing, in the Aquarian age, we're going to go to the moon. We are going to go to the moon, and in the 2,600 year age, we are going to go way beyond the moon. This is why we're calling it the galactic area, because we're going to start exploring space beyond. We're going to be going on to other planets, because so far we've really a man has only landed on the moon. We haven't gone outside of that, so that's a big part of it. We're going to see space exploration. But on the other side of the galactic era, on the spiritual side, even though we got to keep it grounded, we're going to recognize that we are maybe
Our
not,
multi-dimensional
right?
selves.
This
Yeah.
multi-connectional,
Yeah.
origin of who we are. But at the same time, Aquarius is the great humanitarian, so it demands that we stay in our humanness and honor
Right.
condition.
Right. Not go to the galactic places to escape, but go to the galactic places to bring oneness. And I actually really resonate with that, because I feel, as a person who speaks a light language, part of my purpose is to quote unquote normalize it. If you could normalize such a thing, you
Well,
know.
I hope, Sarah, that in the Aquarian age, and I hope it happens in our lifetime, I do think, as you said before, that spirituality and science are going to start to have more and more conversations. We see this happening already with quantum physics. A lot of quantum, physics is bringing in the spiritual aspect of the non-physical things that we can't see or touch or maybe even measure, but that are actually there. But I hope that in our lifetime, astrology and astronomy start to become friends again, right? Or different aspects and start to acknowledge the non-physical forms of reality and communication, like you're talking about.
And like channeling too. Like I always explain to people, channeling is not such a weird, it seems a little, if you see someone going into a trance, it's a little bit, it's what we were made to do. It's not, we are all channels. We're channeling all the time.
Yeah.
So my hope is to normalize that as well.
Yeah.
And Michaelson says the fact that the space program is alive again makes me cry joy.
Yeah, I'm a little obsessed with the space programs, to be honest. I watch everything about it. And I find it really fascinating. And it's just an amazing. I watch the launches of the rockets that they have, and I cry every time, Mike. I cry.
Yeah, I love when they have like the rovers go and bring back like sample, and you don't hear these things in the mainstream news, and it's like so exciting to me.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I want to hear more of this, I feel like people are a little distracted.
Yeah, well, and we are. We definitely are. But you can follow them. I follow them on Facebook, and that's how
Yeah,
I get to see everything. And I look around, and I don't claim to understand everything that they're saying, because it's like it's beyond me. I'm not a
right.
physicist or an engineer, but I just like to hear about it and watch it go. And again, it's just that little snippet of what's to come.
Do you know? I don't know. See, I don't know if this is too woo-woo for you, but I mean, we're talking about galactics, so I'm gonna go for it. what about aliens and UFOs? I do believe there's going to be more and more connection and understanding and more of that. What is your kind of feel about that?
I definitely think that. First of all, I want to say that I think that that's been going on already since the 1940s, but
Yeah, but
it
I'm
has,
talking about more like a mainstream
yeah,
understanding.
yeah. So, and I
Yeah.
love that because from the mainstream understanding, I will tell you, I've read a lot of books about encounters. If you even
Mhm.
look at Project Paperclip, which they actually have a television show now about Project Paperclip, which was some files that were released about the encounters that the government
Yeah.
had with
I think I
extraterrestrial.
watched a documentary on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think all that's true, and I definitely think in the next 2,600 years, especially that we're going into the galactic era and maybe having space travel. I mean, real space travel. I
Mhm.
think definitely it's very possible that we can encounter or connect to another life form, and may even discover that we're connected to it. I tend to like to keep it grounded though, because I know that and again, I don't want to disrespect anybody's belief systems or work, but I tend to like to see it. I'm a human being in this lifetime. Right? I wanna be human. I wanna stay in my human self.
Right.
I don't really feel a need to go off and talk to the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, if we even know that that's really what they are, because we don't really know for sure.
Right.
We know from channeling, but we don't really know,
Right, right, right. Yeah,
right?
and I would suggest to everyone to use your discernment too, because there's a lot of things like if you go on Facebook, there's a lot of starseed groups and these groups, and there's a lot of channel information. It's so funny because there's this one group where people are constantly posting selfies and tell me my origin, and I always write human, you're human, you're
Yeah,
human,
that's
you're
the thing, right?
human. And people like you're Larry and you're Plea. I'm like, you're human. You
Yeah.
might have connections to Lyra and Sirius and but you're human. Maybe you had a lot, it's just
And the
funny.
truth is we all have connections because
Yeah, we're
if
all
we really
connected.
were, right, if we really were seated here, which I don't doubt that analogy either, if we really were seated here, um, we're all a part of it. But I see a lot of that, and again, I'm not discrediting it because there's a lot of validity to it, and I want to honor it. But there are pieces of it, Sarah. There are pieces of it where I see it as a bypass and a disassociation from their humanity. It's okay to listen.
It
I
can
believe,
be, sure.
yeah, as an astrologer, I actually believe that most of my incarnations were not on Earth. I do believe that and you too, Sarah, most of your incarnations probably weren't in the Earth domain. But that doesn't mean that I don't honor my humanity and that I'm not, I just want to fully indulge in my human experience right here, right now.
Right.
So when I say galactic era, I think more validity will come to what might be out there outside of the spiritual communities, but even from a place of
Like a scientific place,
right,
right?
other things like that, other
Which
things.
is nice, yeah. Like the Star Wars cantina, yeah. A bunch of all different races all interacting as one. Yeah, I think that it is nice to keep it grounded because it can be a little bit of a dissociation. And Michael Zinn had a show last night and I was a guest on last night and we were talking about, like a lot of people, and again, I'm not discrediting, it's everybody's journey. People who use ayahuasca or mushrooms or who use psychedelics to any path to God is okay in my book. I'm not judging. But I think that people can bypass if they're using that avenue. For me, my spirituality actually comes from connecting to my humanity. And
Yes.
and the times that I've tried to, I've actually wanted my humanity, and I like. Do you know sensory deprivation when you go in the tanks? I remember leaving my body very quickly and actually being frightened and wanting my body and being like, no, I don't want to do this. I want my body.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting conversation. Yeah.
I think that's great. I 100% agree with you, Sarah. That's how I feel. Because I don't want to say it this way. We haven't done human all that well yet.
Yes.
Why are we going off into the galactic? We haven't even done human all that
I
well yet.
know, that's so true.
Can we master this? Can we
Right.
master humanity, the human self, before we start traveling out? Because now, in regards to that, by traveling out into different dimensional consciousnesses, can that help humanity? Yes. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
we can get higher perspectives, and we can get different dimensional realities that will, help us grow and evolve 100%.
Right.
What I think what you're saying, Sarah, and I agree with you, is I find people, they go out, but then they never come back.
Yes.
Like, you go out, get the information, get the evolution, but then you got to bring it back because we haven't really done human all that well yet.
Bring it back and bring it back in a grounded way, in a real way that you can actually help people in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, nobody wants to, like you said, like the Buddha on the mountaintop's great, but in this new age, the Buddha has to come down.
Yeah. You have to come down and hang out with the people.
Right, exactly. Wow.
Right?
I know we've chatted for a while, but
Yeah.
this was such a great conversation.
We have to do more of this, Sarah. And Sarah, you're going to be coming on the podcast, my Spiritually Psyched podcast. We've got you on the list, and we're so excited to talk to you because
let me know when.
Spiritually Psyched is a mental health and spirituality together. It's psychotherapists and spiritualists. And I think for you, we believe your work. You said you wanted to validate it. You want to give it a little bit more of a credential. And we really believe in you and how you
I love that.
you want to bring light language into that platform. So we're really excited for that too.
Yeah, which seems kind of a challenge, right? But I feel like I can explain it in a way that's not so far out there. People could, yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah. So just tell people, how can they access your podcast? How can they watch it?
Okay, so the podcast is called Spiritually Psyched. You can get it on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio. It's on all those things. If you go to my website, which is simple, it's annamiranda.net, you'll see the podcast there and the other things that I offer.
And it's called Spiritually Psyched, right?
Spiritually Psyched.
I love that. And you said it's a blend of the mental health and this, which is so, oh my God, so needed. So
That's
needed.
Aquarius. That is part of the Aquarian shift is mental health professionals will have to be bringing in more spirituality, like you said, and spirituality is going to have to get more grounded
or mental health,
come into the mental health.
And I definitely feel like I fit in that.
Yeah. You're like you're a beacon, Sarah. You're a beacon.
Yay! And so are you. And I loved having you on. Thank you for everyone. I'll let you go. We've been chatting for a while, but we should definitely do this again.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. I have so much for you.
I love you too. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for Michael Zinn for commenting. Amazing stuff, my friends. Gratitude. Thank you. And I'll connect you again. We'll have Anna back again. Yay!
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.